In the last video, we got a very simple events page working by stealing code from the index page, basically. The page that was making the index, this code that was making the index page work, we stole it, we edited it just a little bit, and we got our events page working all the way from app.js, referencing a route, and then forwarding to a view. And that's what we look at here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is make our web app useful. So it's not useful right now, it's just declaring or displaying a page. So I'm going to show you here now how to make some useful stuff happen on this page. And to do that, I've just given you some very easy snippets. So just follow what I'm doing here. This video is going to be just about making the snippets work. And then the next video will be about explaining them. So the first thing to do is look at our view. So we've got an events view. You might have this open already, but that was our very simple events view. I've got a snippet to replace this. You'll see it here in a folder called 6C. Just open this events pug in text edit. Select all of this stuff in here, copy it, and paste it into the events pug over the top of the events pug existing code. So some of it's very similar at the top, but then we start into some functional stuff here, and I'll explain this later on. The next thing to do is let's update our route. So this is what the view is going to look like when it's useful, but the route's going to need to do some useful stuff too to pass some information through. So let's look at 6D. That's where the snippet is for the route code. And just copy all of this stuff below the heading there. Copy all that down to there. And then open up your events route and pop it in after this express router line. So just hit a couple of returns there and then paste in what we copied out of there. You still have what was there originally. This stuff was already there, but we've now got this new code all the way up to here, and hit save. Now I want you to look at the web server that's running in the terminal. That's broken now, and that's broken because of a couple of reasons. In the events route, we've referenced a couple of things. If I just put a couple of returns here, we see that I'm referencing a helper file and I'm referencing a model. Neither of these things exist yet. Let's start with the model because we already know how to do that. We've got a models folder. Remember, we made an account model with what does an account look like, and the properties of an account are a username and a password. We're going to do that right now, but we're going to make a model for an event. So you'll remember that our model dictates the fields in our database that will contain information. So this is the model, says open a field in the database for a username and open a field for a password. We're going to register an event. So this is going to be the events page where members say, well, we've got an event called the long jump and the high jump and the standing jump or whatever the events are. And we're going to add those in so that we can then record club records against those events. So what is an event going to have? Well, that's going to be dictated by our model. And I've got a model snippet in 6E. Yeah, 6E has our snippet for our model. So copy all of this stuff and close it. And then we're going to add a model to our models folder. So click the models folder, hit this little new file icon. We're going to say event, not events, because we're saying one event has these properties. It's a way to remember that. And then just paste in what we copied. And again, you'll see, right, we've got a model here, and what it's saying is we're going to have an owner, the person who owns the record, or owns the event, who created the event, the time it was created, or the time it was updated, if it was updated. And really, the only thing we need to store in an event, really, that's for the users is what is the name of the event. Okay. It's also going to object if we don't supply an event name in this condition, but we're never going to get to that condition because we're going to have some browser validation that's going to prevent that from ever happening. So save that. Make sure everything's saved. In fact, I've got to save the route as well because I didn't have that saved. So is it working? Is it working now? We've got our model. Is it working now? We can see that this is still broken. Why is that not working? Well, that's because we also need to. We've added the model which we referenced in the route here, but we haven't created the helper file, right? So the helper file, I've only added this here as part of the video so that you can see that on occasion you're going to want to use code over and over again. Now you can write that code over and over again in every route, say, if every route you want to use that code, or you can say, write it once and then say that code is stored over here in the helpers file, in the helpers folder, in a file called control auth. Great. Well, we don't have that yet. Express doesn't make a helpers file. I just made that up. You don't need a helpers file. I'm just adding this here so that you can see that you can reference code from another file. So I'm going to make that folder by minimizing everything here, hitting a new folder icon. I'm going to call it helpers. You might have more than one helper. Call it helpers. And I've got some code for this in a helpers folder here in 6A. So open up this one here. Now you can just take this file and drag it into the helpers folder. Just drag it up here, hold it over the helpers folder, and it'll just be added. That's great. That's in there. Make sure it's in there by just opening and closing. Yes, it is in there. And it's opened itself up here in VS Code. And this is code we're going to use again and again. So it's going to say exports is logged in. So we're going to look for an is logged in request, and we're going to check to see if there's an authenticated user. And if there isn't an authenticated user, we're going to just send them on to the next function. Or if there's not, we're going to send them to the login page and say, you need to be logged in. Go over to the login page and do that. Great. Now, let's have a look at our web server, and sure enough, it's working again. That's great. So if you see this, then everything should be working. Let's just check our web app again, and we're going to refresh the events page. What's it going to tell us? Yeah, working. Great. Yeah, that's great. So it's all working. Hitting the events page will bring this up and make it work. So if you get this far, then you're ready to go on to the next video.